Mr. Chairman.
I call Grant Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do want to pick up a couple of points from Annette King, but what I want to talk about are two things. I want to talk about the issue of principle and the issue of practicalities. I haven't spoken in this bill up to now, and as somebody who's observed this, I fundamentally don't understand what the National Party is doing here in terms of the point of principle. The idea that a mistake was made, an error occurred, people didn't get what they were entitled to, and the National Party chooses the date on which they discovered the error as the point at which compensation kicks in, rather than back to when the error was made. As a point of principle in this, or there isn't a point of principle in that. That's the problem. Because if we were taking a principled approach, it would be that an error was made that, as you know, to quote the Attorney General in this House recently, to quote in him quoting LV Martin, it's the putting right that counts. The mistake's been made. The government can now do what it needs to do in order to allow those affected by the error to make the claim. This goes against the principles of natural justice that get talked about constantly in this House. The very thing that we're all charged with doing when we're elected as members of Parliament, to uphold the rule of law, to represent the concerns of New Zealanders. And it just seems to me that actually the National Party's taken a call for some reason to limit this on a financial basis and trash the principle. That's what it looks like. And so that does bring me to the second of my points, and I'll come back to the principle issue in a moment, which is, as a Member of Parliament, having this bill not been through a select committee process, I would want now to be reading a report that gives an estimation from the government of cost. And that's what would enable us to start making some good and sensible decisions. Now, there is a factor that I know will make this difficult, and that's the point that the Honourable Annette King has just been discussing, which is just how many people would take this up. So I've got an alternative idea about the information that we could get that would help us decide the practicalities of this piece of legislation. And that would be to get some information about the amounts of money that individuals who have already claimed might have asked for. Is it $80? Is it $100? Is it $1,000? How much money are we talking about at an individual level where we know who the people are? Because I accept the point that we're not necessarily going to know how many people will apply, but I think the Minister and the Chair or another Minister might be able to stand up and talk to us about the amounts that individuals get. Because in total, they won't be that much, but they will be meaningful to those people who get it. And we are talking here about the teacher aides, the people on short-term contracts, students coming in and out of being a student, in and out of being in and out of work and study requirements. People for whom $80 or $100 will make a difference. But you know what, Mr. Chair? That's not the point. The point isn't the $80 or $100, even though it will make a big difference to those people. The point is the principle that an error was made, an error that continued through different governments. So nobody in here can wash their hands, or perhaps some parties who haven't been part of government might feel they can, but nobody in here can really wash their hands because we've all been in Parliament. We've all got a shared responsibility in doing the right thing, in actually saying, you know what, this was a mistake, we're going to give a decent period of time, and here I do want to also support Carmel Sepuloni's SOP. We'll give a decent amount of time for everybody to have a look, work out whether or not it's worth their while applying and going ahead and doing that. I simply cannot understand why a government that tells us it believes in natural justice, that tells us it believes in the rule of law, that says that it upholds the rights of the citizens of this country, would not come here to this House and say, we get it. The mistake was made, and the mistake's been made since the law was passed in 1998. Now is the time to make sure that we can do that. Perhaps the Minister may well be able to make that now.
I call Chris Hipkins.